Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Someday with Jay Barsky. This episode's guest is former professional surfer and now entrepreneur, Kassia Meador. Kassia has been known for her graceful surf style and was once crowned the Queen of Nose Riding by the New York Times. She is the founder of the Kassia Surf company that pushes the limits of women's surf culture, lifestyle, and design with a mission to create the most functional and radical women's wetsuits, accessories, and lifestyle gear in the highest vibe, lowest impact way possible. You'll hear us talk about how she started her Kassia Surf company, her interest in practicing sound baths, and much more. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoy our Someday with Kassia Meador. Kassia Meador, what's up? How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm great. I know when I've messaged you earlier to request to have you on the podcast, I'm very appreciative of having you here because I just think you're an awesome individual. I think I was mentioning that in my message, and I kind of really want to share what you're about and your story and how like awesome and stoked you are. And I mean, obviously I know you're a surfer, but there's obviously more to that I like to discuss with you. But starting off, I wanted to talk about like your like kind of your journey of being a surfer, but how did that kind of lead you to make you want to start your Kassia Surf company?
Yeah, thanks so much. So basically, being a surfer was awesome, and it is awesome, and I love the ocean, and I love riding waves, and I was also really enjoying designing wetsuits and doing some other things for the brands I was working with because, being with them for quite some time, it was like, well, how are we going to keep things fresh? How are we going to continue to inspire each other and propel ourselves forward? In which case, I started designing wetsuits, I started designing clothing. I started even working with their creative department and working on some of the ads and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. And it was kind of a time in my, career as well as like surf journey that I was feeling I was in my early 30s and I was kind of like, okay, what's next, and like gratefully I had another contract with the company I was working with, but they were stopping all team products, meaning that I couldn't continue to design wetsuits for them. And I was like, well, gosh, like there's more to me than just like, putting on a bikini and going surfing. I want to
Hmm.
continue to evolve. I want to continue to do things. And at first they were cool with that. But then when push came to shove and I came to sign my contract, they were like, oh, actually, you can't do your own wetsuit company. And I was like, well, I can't sign this because really, without me continuing to push myself as a person, just, taking money to just surf felt like I was not actually like honoring my growth as an individual.
Hmm.
So, it kind of was like the 11th hour. And I was like, well, I can't sign this contract. I'm going to go my own way, which maybe I could have done it smarter in hindsight and been a little more thoughtful. But I guess too, it's like we're surfers. So it's like we also just kind of dive in and ride the wave that comes to us in the moment. So I kind of made a little rash decision and chose to leave my main sponsor of 15 years at the time and go my own way to start Kassia Surf. So it's been a journey and it continues to be. And it's been teaching me so much throughout the entire process. And I've grown so much and continue to. So yeah, like in a nutshell, without like saying too much, that's kind of like the gist of all of it.
Well, I understand there's besides wetsuits, you do other things. I thought I saw something about like you're designing your own surfboards. Is that correct?
Well, I work with a shaper, a good friend of mine. I mean, for so much of my surfing career, I worked with like a really good friend and mentor, Donald Takayama, and he was like a uncle to me. He was like like a second father in some ways because he really taught me all about the ocean and taught me all about like surfing and like the aloha spirit. But when he passed away, gosh, it would have been like 12 years ago. I just kind of was like, wow, I was like a little bit, it was around the same time I decided to leave my main sponsor, Roxy, and kind of went on my own way. And to be honest, it kind of all turned me off on surfing. Like I was just like over
Mhm.
surfing at the time. I was like, I'm just kind of done. I need a break from it all. Like, all my mentor, like he passed away and it was really hard for me. And I was just like in this kind of funk. And then a really good friend of mine, Dane Peterson, that we grew up surfing together, he made me a couple boards and they felt fun and interesting, but he only made a couple boards. And then my friend Eden made me a couple boards and that was super cool. And, we, started working on stuff together, but it was only in the last, like probably 5 years, 4 or 5 years that I started writing. Dane Peterson, good friend of mine, had a board brand that he started and he was like, I'm really going to push the shaping and the longboarding. And I'm like, well, gosh, like he's one of my favorite surfers and he's also a really good friend of mine. And I was like, well, if you're going to start shaping, like I want to start riding your boards again. So I started riding his boards again. And then kind of 2.5 years ago, it was like, let's work on a model together. And so it was really cool because it like pushed my surfing and it also pushed his shaping into different places because he is he is such well, first of all, he's one of my favorite surfers. We've
Mm.
also known each other since I started surfing pretty much, like 2 years into my surf journey, we met on the beach and that was like it. And we were like really good friends since. We've lived together.
Okay.
We've been like family, So he knows my surfing more than anybody. And I think through our whole friendship and relationships and just life, we pushed each other in really cool way. So this opportunity to really create a board together in collaboration for both smaller frame people with women in mind, was like kind of the baseline of this collaboration together. So we were kind of like, like let's do this. So we started working on the Aqueous, which is a model that we just kind of came out with that we did together. And it's been such a cool journey because I think it's really pushed both of us in different ways. And it just kind of came out and I'm like so stoked on it. And everybody who rides it is super stoked on it. And it just like feels really good when like we've been friends for 26 years. It took us 2.5 years, 7 different surfboards to get where we got with this model. So there was a lot of time, dedication, and attention. It wasn't just putting my name on something, or it wasn't just putting his name on something. It was doing something together that was really meticulous and thoughtful. And we're both really proud that it's out in the world. So that's super cool.
No, that's an amazing story. You mentioned kind of your like connection to the ocean and you're like very close to the environment or you're an environmentalist. And one thing that I thought was really interesting that I heard was that you make yoga mats out of the recycled wetsuits. So how'd you come up with that idea?
Well, so it was Suga Yoga is started by this guy named Brian Shields. And Brian Shields was an environmental lawyer, or he is an environmental lawyer, a surfer, and was kind of just like sick of all the like red tape and the stuff that he was hitting in doing good stuff for the planet. So he's like, well, as a surfer, I know I have like a stockpile of wetsuits in my garage that are just sitting there collecting dust. I don't want to throw them away because I don't want them to end up in a landfill, but what do I do with them? So he kind of worked on starting the technology. He's also a big yogi, him and his wife. So he started Suga Yoga. And so I was trying to think of in starting a wetsuit company, my own, I was like, well, I just, want to leave this world. We were always taught like, leave it better than you found it. So I really wanted to leave it better than I found it. And if I was going to create something, I wanted to be really mindful about like the end of life cycle for either what I was creating or as well as the scraps and different things. So I hit up Brian. I was like, hey man, like I would love to be a part of your recycling program for your wetsuits. I mean, for your yoga mats, let's do it together. And he was like, yep, let's go, So I started collecting wetsuits and now we have this wetsuit recycling program. I actually have like, half of a truckload of wetsuits that I'm going to bring down to him this weekend in San Diego because I have some work and I'm hosting an event down there. So I'm going to, like I would say probably every like 4 to 6 months, I bring him like a little load of suits and we go surfing
Okay.
together. So yeah, it's collaboration, it's working together. And I think that that's really kind of behind everything I do. The spirit of collaboration, the spirit of working together. It's like surfing is a solo pursuit in a lot of ways, but it's best shared with community. It's best shared with like a tribe. It's best shared with your crew. You know, you want somebody to see the best wave that you got. And I think all of our best endeavors are really as people in collaboration. It's like we can only do so much as a single entity, but really when we get together, that's where more opportunity comes. That's where more success comes. That's where more impact comes. So I'm super grateful to have teamed up with Brian, and I love working with him, and he's just such a groovy guy.
So are you a yoga practitioner yourself? Like, do you practice yoga often?
Yeah, I love yoga. I have been since I was a kid, you know. I think it's really important. Like I don't go a day without stretching and getting into a couple of vinyasas. So as surfers, it's like, I mean, I also really take on the philosophy that yoga isn't just something that you do in a class. It's like the way that you live your life. So it's really kind of like I take that, you know, stance of yoga and flexibility into everything I do on land as well as in the water. And I do have like a physical yoga practice where every day there's at least a few vinyasas I'm doing. And sometimes I go to like longer classes or practice at home, but it's definitely a part of my life.
I try to do probably like once a week of hot yogas, specifically a vinyasa practice at a yoga studio near here. And my favorite pose
Cool.
is always the warrior one and two, is because I always compare it to like almost feeling like surfing. I surfed a little bit, and, like just only a couple of years, didn't last long. Just I learned a little surfing, did like a trip in Costa Rica, did like really liked it, but here in South Florida, it's not really like our waves aren't like really that active much for surfing. But I mean, I've done it a little bit in other spots, but like I said, it didn't last long. But at least I know the feeling enough to know, like, at least when I'm doing that pose in yoga, that it feels like I'm surfing.
That's it. That's what's up, you know, and it's cool. It's a great practice and a good way to continue to bring flexibility and movement to your life.
I thought it was really cool. I saw your logo too for your company. How'd you come up with that logo?
You know, that logo is really like really came from like we were trying to kind of design a logo and I was like, okay, you know what? Like I really want to bring like a bunch of different elements together for it because nothing was really kind of like aligning. And so the circle, which kind of comes back to like, you know, it's like everything moves in cycles and circles, the tide, the sun, the moon, our earth, like the orbits, it's all cycles, you know. So that was a huge part. And then it was like from there, like, you know, triangles. Like I wanted to both, or, you know, to have like the trifecta, like the triangle is one of the most solid structures, right? And so I wanted it to be a place where quality, functionality, and aesthetics all met. And I felt like a lot of things either looked cool and maybe functioned, but they didn't have the quality, or they were like quality, but didn't look cool. And maybe, you know, but I wanted it to be a place where everything intersected. So a really solid foundation. So that was another part. And then I put my first letter of my name in it, a K. So that's in there. And then there's also
Oh.
like a peace sign in there. And so it kind of has all these things, you know, like all these little elements all rolled into one circle. So it's just like, you know, one cell of the human body, one part of the, you know, it's like everything is like, you know, all of it in one little kind of cell. So that was a little bit of the idea of it, just putting it all together. All of the elements of the brand just rolled into one.
And I might have this wrong, but I know you have a like an interest in kelp. I don't know if that was kind of part of your company or is that something separate that you're interested in?
Well, you know, another big part of like our company and what we want to do is like give back to our oceans, right? So, like with the recycling program, we're giving back to the earth in every way we possibly can and leaving it better than we found it. And then with the, you know, what we can do with the oceans and really supporting our oceans and waterways, like, you know, I'm an ambassador for Save the Waves organization. I'm also an ambassador for Sustainable Surf and Sea Trees. So, pretty much through Sustainable Surf, Sea Trees, and 1% for the Planet, we do everything we can and actually end up donating 2% instead of 1% a year to sea trees. So every, you know, purchase of a wetsuit also goes back to reseeding our kelp and mangrove forests worldwide. And essentially like blue carbon, like blue carbon sequestering through our oceans. They found that like our kelp and sea forests and mangrove forests like sequester like up to like 8 times that of terracotta land forests. So I think it's really important. And it's also important for the biodiversity of our waterways. And if the ocean is, I mean, it's such a big part of the, you know, how everything on our planet can stay in harmony. So, like, if we have healthy oceans and waterways, we have a healthy planet, and vice versa. So, it's really an important factor. And because I'm somebody that receives so much from the ocean, I want to give back to the ocean. So it's kind of like, and giving back to the ocean is giving to the planet. So it's kind of like all this symbiotic relationship is the intention.
I appreciate your time in like doing this, and especially today, because I know you're kind of in between treats, or you do a lot of surf retreats, and I believe you're having one coming up. Like I don't know if in a couple of days, if I'm right. So what services do you offer in your surf retreats?
Yeah, so the surf retreats are another kind of like opportunity for us to give back. It's like an opportunity for us to gather in community and an opportunity for us to give back by teaching around what we love, which is surfing, right? So it's like I've been surfing now since I'm like 42 years old, and I've been surfing since I was 14. So I've been surfing for like 28 years of my life, or I don't know if I have the math right, but maybe 26 years. I don't know. But a while, right? And there's so many
Mhm.
like adult learners or people that maybe tried it as a kid at like camp or something and then never did it again, but like now want to get into it in a different time in their life. So I really think that things that took me a really long time to learn, but I was a kid, I was like resilient. I could bounce off of stuff. I could keep on
Mhm.
going. Like I want to really give back to people in the way that I received, and also create community around that because there's so much collaboration, there's so much community created from surfing and surf culture, and that's what I experienced. And that's really the aim of that. That's really the aim of our real awesome surf retreats, and we do them worldwide. And we mostly focus on people that are kind of more in the intermediate plus stage of their surfing that
Mhm.
really want to get better. And we support them in getting better with video feedback, with guided surf, coaching in real time, with creating community. I'm like on all these chats with like hundreds of women and men too around the world that have come on retreat with us, and they're connecting and they're hanging and they're doing stuff together. So it's really, really sweet to be a part of.
The next one coming up, I thought I saw was Nicaragua. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we have Nicaragua coming up. That'll be soon. That'll be in like July. And then after that, we have some here in Southern California. And then from there, we go to Indonesia. We have a couple retreats in Indonesia and then back to Nicaragua. So, I'm spending a lot of time. I would say most of our retreats are centered around Nicaragua and Indonesia currently. And then we do have our Southern California retreats for those people who can't really get on a plane and leave their family or leave their jobs for that long. So we try to really offer something for everybody.
That's cool. And something that I thought else that I mean, there's so much things you do that are awesome, but another awesome thing that I know you do is sound bath. So I don't know if that's something you offer during your retreats, but I kind of want to know just how'd you get into that?
Yeah, thanks so much for bringing that up. Yeah, so they are something. It's where like the intersection of my surfing as well as like my meditation and energy medicine work comes together. So I bring the surfing and sound together on our retreats and offer sound baths on the retreat. And they're fantastic. It's a wonderful way to get into a meditative state. It's also a wonderful way to support your nervous system, support everything coming up for you within our surf retreats. Obviously, as we're moving our physical body, stuff comes up for us emotionally and or energetically. So it's something that really is supportive to have on the retreats and in life. And it's something that's helped me out in my life, and it's brought me a lot of peace and clarity and mindfulness. And it's something that I love to share. So like everything that I kind of offer are things that like all changed my life in one way, shape, or form. So I feel really grateful to bring those on to our retreats and then support other people. I've been like so many people's first sound baths, and
Mhm.
now they're more and more readily available. So people also know how supportive it is for them. And they really enjoy it. So it's a really nice way to reset your nervous system.
Oh, I love sound baths. There's over where I live in Palm Beach County. There's a city called Delray Beach, and once a month they have this it's called Cocoa Market, but it's just like a day event or a monthly event that just people of like a conscious community can go come meet up. They have certain events going on from I think like 8 to 3, starting off with yoga. But at 10 in the morning, they do a sound bath for an hour. So it like I don't really come for the yoga or anything else, but I just come for the sound bath, and it's just under like a really huge tree in a certain part of downtown the city. And it's like it started off as a small like circle, but then it's like grown to like a really big a lot with a lot of people. So and it's really cool. Just you're kind of joining in just a sound bath. You're just lying down, listening to like just kind of I don't know natural music or just different sounds from people, and they're just like making the like sounds right in front of you directly, and it's a nice experience to have, and I've lost count of how many sound baths I've done.
It's the best, right? Like, I
Yeah,
love it. It's such a groovy time, and yeah, like, it's just so supportive, and some people are just so called to it, and I think it's something that's been awesome for me, and it feels like surfing. Obviously, you've, like, experienced a lot of them, so you know, it's
yeah,
like it feels like you're kind of in the ocean.
yeah,
That's cool. I love that you love that. And it's cool how much it's grown because people see the benefits,
yeah,
and they experience them for themselves. And that's always what I invite everybody. It's like everybody has their own experience with everything. And I feel like, too, and you probably know this from your own, every time you go to a sun bath, yes, there's probably some nervous system support and you leave feeling more calm and stuff, but everyone is probably different for you, right? Because
mhm,
it's like different stuff is up for you. You're in a
yeah,
different place, it's a different day. So, that's why it's like just because you've had one sound bath doesn't mean like, oh, cool, that's it. It's like
yeah,
keep going back. It's like with
mhm,
meditation, keep going back. With everything, just keep going back.
mhm. You did a sound bath in the South Pole not too far back, is that right?
Yeah, I got to go to Antarctica and that was incredible. Obviously, there's so many restrictions with the land because it is some of the most pure land on the planet. So when we did go on excursions off the boat that we were on, we brought limited things and there was a lot of, we weren't allowed to sit and or touch the ground. We had to like go through a whole almost like a staging process where we would make sure not to bring any contaminants onto the land or off the land. So I didn't
Okay,
actually do anything on the continent, obviously, but we
uh-huh,
did do some sound baths on the boat that we were on.
okay,
And it was super beautiful, and just being there was so beautiful, and the vessel that we were on was also, like, doing a lot of, like, whale tracking and counting, and so
mm.
they were seeing, like, different whales that were coming through and, sharing that data with other scientists, but yeah, we didn't do anything on the land.
It's awesome that you definitely participate in this sound bath. And you also do understand that you also have done virtual sound baths. So how did that experience go?
Yeah, so especially during the pandemic time, we've hosted a lot of different virtual sound meditations for people, and I think that that was really supportive when people were like stuck in their homes, unable to kind of get out into the world and all that. So that was really nice because it was a way to bring sound and community to people through this virtual experience, just like us having this podcast right now. And it's a reminder that we just live in the age of information and the age of light, and at the touch of our fingertips that we can connect with each other worldwide. So what an opportunity. And it was really beautiful to be able to share sound and meditation through the computer with people all over the world in 1 hour, kind of bridging that light and bridging that light of sound. So it was really special. And obviously, now that people are gathering in person more, it's been fantastic to just like obviously work in person with people. But I had two sound baths last week, one for a small group, one for a private, so I'm doing privates and groups all the
Okay.
time. And then I also bring them on my obviously retreats and stuff. So yeah, it's something that I love and it's a massive part of my life.
I want to participate in a sound bath, like actually be this like probably like bring bongos or something like that. I want to
Oh,
buy
cool.
it
I
should
love
be.
that. You gotta do it. Yeah, percussion is important.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, sound baths help relieve stress. I mean, then it helps relieve some stress for me. So, I kinda wanna pick your brain and get to know you a little bit and or have, like, the listeners know you a little bit and ask, like, what do you do to relieve stress?
Relieving stress, I just try the best I can not to feel stress. And it's also not easy because we are in a very fast paced and stressful environment often, with bills and other things we have to do and timelines. So, really, the ocean and being in the ocean and surfing is an important way for me to relieve stress. Yoga, stretching, having like a meditation practice, daily meditation practice. So, whether that meditation practice is sitting in meditation, or it's surfing, or it's moving through conscious breath and movement like yoga, it's just a way for me to kind of get out of my mind and into my body. So I feel like embodiment is a really good way to get out of stress, because stress is kind of like an active mind thing, where like really kind of to bring yourself back into your body is a way for you to ground your energy. So there isn't as much going on with like the day to day stresses, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Are there any special routines, rituals that you followed throughout your day or your week?
Honestly, that's it. Like I wake up, and if the waves are good, I go surfing. And if the waves aren't good, I stretch and sit in meditation. If I go surf, and then I usually come back and do some stretching and get into some work. And I just live a pretty simple life, just like keep the stresses as low as possible and drive when I have to drive. And when I don't have to drive, there's days that I just only walk and I don't drive anywhere. I don't live by the beach. So, and then I try and just navigate like the roads at times that it's not crowded and, it's just like thoughtful. Like I feel like too, it's like staying off the road, or if I am on the road in a time that's going to be like a trafficy time. Like yesterday, I listened to like a really good podcast or something to keep me active and inspired, and really giving myself plenty of time to and from. Like I don't try and jam things in anymore. I really try and give a lot of space between things. So I do get a lot done. I am really productive, but I'm also proactive in trying to
Mhm.
give space between things.
No, I love that. And you were talking earlier about like just meditation. So, are there any practices that kind of help you and that motivate you that you may recommend for our listeners?
Absolutely. I mean, just getting into a simple meditation every day. Like I have my Insight Timer, which is like an app that you can get online, and I just time and go into my breath, and there's body scans. There's different ways of getting into meditation. There's different mantra based meditations. So obviously a lot of people that have a hard time, there's so many people that come to my sound baths that are like, wow, I have such a hard time meditating. And like today I was really able to drop in. So if we have really active minds and we have a hard time dropping in because the mind is thinking of the to-do list, I really feel that at times in my life that I've had a lot of to dos in my head, that's where like mantra based meditations are really helpful, because it gives your mind something to focus on with the mantra. And sometimes just again, body scans or going into the breath as a form of going inward in absorbing is really helpful. So I think there's a lot of different practices out there. And I would just invite everybody to, find something that works for you, and knowing that that thing that works for you now might not work for you always. So, kind of there's so many different tools out there. So that's kind of, yeah, it's like I just always like suggest things that work for other people, but those are a couple types of meditations that have worked for me in my life.
No, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Cassia, as we wrap up, are you working on anything that our listeners should watch out for?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, come check it out. Come on retreat with us. If you're interested in surfing, come on retreat with us, stay in touch, see what we're up to, listen to cool podcasts like this. I'm super grateful to be on someday, you know what I mean? So thank you so much for having me, Barsky. It's so awesome to be with you, and just like inviting people to be more kind and loving to each other. I think that's the biggest thing. If we can be more kind and loving to ourselves, and we can be more kind and loving to each other, the world can be a better place. And there's a lot of people are going through a lot right now. So we never know what anybody's going through individually. So let's have, compassion for ourselves and compassion for each other.
No, I love that. Are you okay with sharing, like, you're in Los Angeles? Is that
I'm in Los Angeles, California. This is where I live. And so, people can follow me on Instagram. People can check out what we have going on our website, and people can check us out. I don't really engage with Facebook, but we are on Facebook with our brand. So I think that through Instagram as well as through our website is the best way to see what we're up to. So check it out, please.
it's funny because I only asked because I was interested. You talk about, like, giving sound baths, and I come, like, every once in a while to visit a friend over in Los Angeles. I think he lives near Santa Monica, and so, like, yeah, I would if you're offering, like, I don't know if you're offering public sound baths, but I would definitely participate in one of yours.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, check it out. Whenever we have like public ones going on, we're always like blasting on IG, and it's the easiest way to kind of let people know. So definitely check us out there because whenever I'm part of different group things, I'll always blast it there.
Awesome. I mean, you shared some wise stuff already, but I'll ask you one more time if you're if there's anything else. But Cassia, do you have any final thoughts you want to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, I think we kind of covered it all, like be kind to yourself and be kind to others. And two, I think another important thing is like, that I think has been helpful for me is to remember that we're all a work in progress all the time and that we're not here to have it all figured out. We're here to figure it out along the way. So, to give ourselves the time and the space to make mistakes because mistakes aren't bad. They're actually like, growing edges and opportunities to learn. And so, if we kind of can be a little kinder to ourselves and allow ourselves the space to play a little bit more, I think that we actually, as individuals and collectively, can actually move through a lot more quickly. I think, so many people I find, and me, myself included, have been scared to fail. So, because of that, I hold myself back from even trying. But it's anytime I put myself out there and I really do try and put something out there, I learn so much. So I think it's really important to remember and it's important to share that. Just get the energy moving. If you have an idea, get it out into the world. Get the energy moving. Be curious.
No, I love that. But Kassia Meador, I appreciate all this conversation and everything that you shared from us. And I'm glad I finally got a chance to speak with you. Like I said, you are an amazing person, and sure our listeners by the end of this podcast they've discovered that themselves, but they'll definitely should follow you and everything that you're doing. But Kassia Meador, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on the podcast today. So nice to chat and have a good conversation and be a part of someday. And so thank you so much, and it was lovely to be with you.
Thanks for listening to our episode with Kassia Meador. Follow her on all her socials, which you may find in the episode notes. I hope you enjoyed our episode. Please rate and comment on the podcast to help make it grow. If you wish to follow me, all my socials are at I am J Barsky. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.